Who are you? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched her daughter close. The man standing at the door wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't the one she texted that night in tears. But there he was, tall, confident, wearing a tailored coat and holding a white envelope. "I'm the man who got your message," he said softly. "And I think fate wanted me to." The camera zooms in on Sarah's shocked face, the tears, the disbelief, as the narrator says. Sometimes, the wrong message can lead you to the right person. Sarah Collins was a 32-year-old single mother living in a small town outside Chicago. Life hadn't been kind to her. Her husband, Mark, had abandoned her 3 years ago after losing his job, leaving her with their 7-year-old daughter, Lily, and a pile of unpaid bills. She worked double shifts at a diner, serving coffee to people who barely noticed her tired smile. Her hands were often rough from washing dishes, and her eyes had permanent shadows from sleepless nights. Yet, every morning, she'd kiss Lily on the forehead and whisper, "Mommy's got this." But deep down, she wasn't sure she did. Rent was overdue. The landlord had already threatened eviction twice. Lily's shoes had holes, and her asthma medicine was running out. Sarah had no family, no savings, and no one to turn to. That night, after her shift ended and the rain poured outside, Sarah sat on her tiny couch with trembling hands and wrote a message she never thought she'd send. "Hi, it's Sarah. I know I shouldn't be asking this, but I really need help. I'm behind on rent, and my daughter's sick. Please, if you could lend me something, I'll pay you back. I just don't know what else to do." She stared at her phone, tears dripping onto the screen. She meant to send it to her ex-husband, the man who once promised to take care of her and their child. But in her exhaustion and despair, she made one small mistake: she sent it to the wrong number. The number of Ethan Miller, a reclusive billionaire who hadn't smiled in years. Ethan Miller, 38, was a man who had everything money could buy except peace. He owned tech companies, skyscrapers, and cars most people could only dream of. But he lived alone in a massive penthouse, surrounded by silence. 3 years ago, his fiancée, Anna, had died in a car crash, a crash that happened because of him. He had been driving that night. Since then, he shut himself off from everyone. He didn't check messages often, but that night, for reasons even he couldn't explain, he picked up his phone. And there it was, a message from an unknown number. "Hi, it's Sarah. I really need help." He almost deleted it, thinking it was a scam. But something about the message, the rawness, the honesty, made him stop. It didn't ask for millions, just help. He could feel the desperation in every word. Ethan read it again and again. Then, he typed back, "Where do you live?" The next morning, Sarah was making instant noodles for breakfast when someone knocked. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, she saw a man she didn't recognize, tall, clean-shaven, wearing a black coat. Behind him, a sleek car stood in sharp contrast to the crumbling building she lived in. "Sarah Collins?" he asked. "Yes, who are you?" she said nervously. He handed her an envelope. "I'm the man you texted last night." Sarah's heart stopped. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That message wasn't meant for you. I made a mistake." He smiled faintly. "I know. But maybe it wasn't a mistake." Inside the envelope was $5,000, enough to pay rent and more. "I don't want charity," she said, pushing it back toward him. "And I'm not offering charity," Ethan replied gently. "I'm offering a chance." Ethan explained that he owned several community programs but didn't trust people to manage them. He wanted someone honest, someone who truly understood struggle. "I need a caretaker for one of my countryside properties, someone to look after the place and handle small tasks. You'll have free accommodation, and your daughter can go to school nearby." Sarah stared at him, suspicious but desperate. "Why me?" "Because you didn't ask for a miracle," he said softly. "You asked for help. And that takes courage." After a sleepless night, Sarah accepted. Chapter 6: A New Beginning. The house was like something out of a dream: wide gardens, tall trees, and air that smelled of freedom. For the first time in years, Sarah and Lily had their own rooms, soft beds, and warm meals. Ethan would visit occasionally, always polite, always distant. But Lily adored him. She called him Mr. Ethan and followed him around, asking endless questions. Sarah noticed how his eyes softened around her daughter, how his laughter, rare and quiet, returned whenever Lily was near. Slowly, walls began to crumble. The house was like something out of a dream: wide gardens, tall trees, and air that smelled of freedom. For the first time in years, Sarah and Lily had their own rooms, soft beds, and warm meals. Ethan would visit occasionally, always polite, always distant. But Lily adored him. She called him Mr. Ethan and followed him around, asking endless questions. Sarah noticed how his eyes softened around her daughter, how his laughter, rare and quiet, returned whenever Lily was near. Slowly, walls began to crumble. But happiness never lasts without testing. One evening, while cleaning Ethan's office, Sarah found a photo of a beautiful woman, the one Ethan had lost. She understood then why he looked so lonely, why his eyes sometimes carried storms. And just as Sarah was finding her peace, her past came crashing back. Mark, her ex-husband, showed up drunk at the property, shouting her name. He wanted money. When Sarah refused, he became violent. Ethan intervened, protecting her and Lily, but Mark's words cut deep. "So this is how you survive now? With another man's charity?" Ethan punched him, something he hadn't done in years. But Sarah, shaken, cried that night not because of Mark, but because she felt unworthy again. The next day, Ethan came to her cottage. "Sarah," he said quietly, "you don't owe me anything. You earned everything here." She shook her head. "You don't understand. I'm tired of people seeing me as a burden." Ethan hesitated, then handed her his phone. "You changed my life, Sarah. That message, it wasn't a mistake. I hadn't spoken to anyone in months. That one message reminded me there are people who still believe in hope. You saved me without knowing it." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I just wanted to survive. And I just wanted to feel alive again," he said. As weeks turned into months, something beautiful bloomed between them. They started sharing dinners, walks, and laughter. Sarah taught Ethan to cook pancakes. Ethan helped Lily ride a bicycle. They began to feel like a family, though no one said it aloud. But love always brings fear of losing again. Ethan was terrified of opening his heart. Sarah was scared of being hurt once more. Until one stormy night, when Lily fell sick again. The nearest hospital was an hour away. Ethan drove through the rain, refusing to stop. Holding Lily's tiny hand in the back seat, Sarah whispered, "Please don't leave us." And Ethan finally said, "I won't. Not this time." Months later, when spring came, Sarah woke up to find a letter on her doorstep from Ethan. "Sarah, the day you texted me, I thought it was an accident. Now I know it was destiny. You taught me that kindness heals more than money ever can. If you'll let me, I want to be part of your story, not as your employer, but as your partner in this crazy, imperfect life." When she looked up, Ethan was there, holding a small ring. Lily stood beside him, grinning, whispering, "Say yes, Mommy." Through tears, Sarah nodded. Yes. A year later, their home was filled with laughter. Ethan adopted Lily legally. Sarah started a small charity for single mothers, helping women who once felt as hopeless as she did. In every speech, she'd tell her story. "One wrong message changed my life, because maybe, when you send a cry for help into the universe, it always finds the person who's meant to answer it." And as the camera pans out on their happy family under a golden sunset, the narrator says,